Let's get the program on the way. What up, folks? Once again, it is indeed your boy Tim, the handsome liberal. As you can see, the video today is simply titled 3 words you heard a hell of a lot during the 2020 election. There was no shortage of folks chanting out, "Stop the steal." So today's program, what we're going to discuss is indeed "Stop the Steal," the Georgia edition. So why are we bringing this up? Well, another attorney within Trump's inner circle, Kenneth Chesebro, I believe his name is, or Cheesebro, you pick the pronunciation, has pled guilty. We're looking at 2 guilty pleas in a span of 2 days. Now, I'm going to be asking a simple question with this going back and forth like this. The question is simple. Do you believe, we're not talking about President Trump, talking about his inner circle, his associates, people that were on his team, part of his administration, do you believe people on Trump's team or part of his administration intentionally tried to change the results of the 2020 election? In other words, is part of the Trump administration guilty of attempting to steal the election? Stop the steal, the Georgia edition. If not, we have to. Why are so many folks pleading guilty? We had Sidney Powell yesterday. And Sidney Powell was the second person in regards to the Georgia case to plead guilty, but she was a far bigger fish. Now we got Kenneth Chesebro pleading guilty. So we got 3 of these folks pleading guilty in regards to what's going on in Georgia. Do you believe, taking Trump out of the picture, I understand a lot of my beloved Maga believes Trump is innocent of everything. We're not talking about Trump himself. We're talking about his administration, his inner circle. Do you believe members of Trump's administration or his inner circle tried to steal the election? Or at the very least, the state of Georgia tried to sway the actual will of the people in that state in favor of President Trump? That's what we're going to be discussing today. As always, the program is and forever will remain MAGA friendly in its entirety. MAGA is always my preferred guest. Nevertheless, liberals are welcome as well. What do we always say? We do not block, ban, or censor anyone for their commentary. Understand, whether you're in the comment section or in the box, you never have to worry about the host trying to limit, censor, or ban your opinion. You don't have to agree with the host. If you don't agree with the host, nobody gives a damn. So looking in the comments, 11,780 votes is all Trump said he needed. Fair enough. But did anyone within Trump's inner circle try to intentionally break the law to provide Trump with those 11,780 votes he was seeking? That's what we're asking. Not in favor of Trump, but for acting for Trump. I don't quite understand what you're saying. Because when you say it, not in favor of Trump, but acting for Trump, I mean, I'm going to assume you don't believe that Sidney Powell or Kenneth Chesebro was working on behalf of Biden. I don't quite get that. By the way, tap the screen. Get your boy up to 5,000. Almost 500 of you in here. Helps out the algorithm. Brings in more MAGA. So we'll start it out with Fur. Fur the Great. Welcome to the program. Asking a question. In Trump's inner circle, do you believe anyone was trying to deliberately change the will of the people and alter the election results? Good afternoon.
I do.
Fur the Great, are you with me?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Okay. Hey, how you doing, HL, man?
I'm
Pleasure to be
doing
on your
real
show
good.
as
Good to
usual.
have you back on.
Yeah, it's looking that way. I mean, there's more chips or dominoes to fall, as they say, but it's definitely looking like it's about to start quacking like a duck. So, yeah.
Yeah, it does appear to be snitches within the ranks, but ours is Trump perhaps innocent, and just everyone around him was trying to do this on behalf of him.
That's a possibility. You know, nothing's absolute, but like my first statement, that's seeming further from that than where we at right now. It's a lot of moving parts, so to speak, and it's hard to say that everyone did that in the cloak of darkness up under his nose without him having an inkling of what's going on.
Yeah, that would be questionable. Also, you'd have to think all of these folks were well established career professional people. Why would they risk throwing their career away? I mean, their careers away? Did they potentially have a reason or something to gain by doing this? I mean, you wouldn't get to be 62 years old, which I believe the guy who pled guilty today, Kenneth Chesbro, he's 62. Why would you become an established attorney and at 62 years of age just go out and commit a bunch of felonies for no reason at all?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, at face value, it doesn't make sense. Like I'm right there with you. It just doesn't make sense to throw all of that work away, reputation, career, and everything for a man or a movement or whatever you want to label it. It just doesn't make sense on face value. Um, so I kind of agree with you there. It just doesn't make sense.
Now, looking at them two, particularly Sidney Powell, who also was about to start trial and pled guilty yesterday, do you see any way where President Trump, because many folks believe Trump can delay this until he's president, do you see where all of these folks are about to go to trial, but somehow Trump can delay his until November of next year or beyond?
If he pulls that off, then yeah, I mean we know, me and you, but that's that two-tier justice system. If he can pull that off, you gotta explain to me who he paid, well, and the way he's talking to these lawyers and these DAs, like he's not getting himself any favor. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just, I've heard people talk about plea deals and that, but you got to show some kind of constriction and humble yourself and admit to things before you get a plea deal. And I don't see 45 doing any of that.
But what is the possibility that, as opposed to really going after Trump, the only purpose of this whole issue is to simply prevent him from being president? That's what the folks claiming it's a witch hunt. They're just, they don't really want to go after Trump. They're just trying to do this to prevent him from becoming president. Do you see any possibility there in that?
I mean, two things can be true. I mean, I always tell them that. I hear that too. Two things can be true. There's another thing they say is, oh, it's been 8 years and this and that. Well, whether it's 12 or 20 years, if you do a crime, but I don't think that's a defense in court. I'm innocent because they tried 8 years and they finally got me. Well, you're here in front of me today, so whatever.
And I'm sure your last statement, I bet Bill Cosby would co-sign the hell out of that. So
Exactly. Exactly. And how that worked for him, you know what I mean?
right,
So I mean,
right. So
it's good banter and mental exercise, but not even a president, and no pun intended, but we have to set the president that you can't do these things. You know what I mean?
yeah.
I don't know if that comes with jail time. Me personally, I think it should come with some kind of jail time or house arrest because you just can't have the next president just going willy nilly and doing what the hell they want to do.
Mhm. Yeah.
In my
You're
humble
not
opinion.
yeah, you're probably not going to be the only one to feel that way. But I got to move it on further. Great doing a short show today. Do appreciate you coming in, man. Always a pleasure.
Appreciate you as always, man. Keep up the good work.
Absolute 100. Looking in the comments here, somebody, Brown's backer, certainly a friend of the program, had asked a couple questions. First of all, what are you going to talk about once Trump is gone? A lot of folks have asked that question. Well, first of all, Trump is not going to be gone until Trump is deceased. Trump is going to be involved in American politics until he is no longer in existence. I mean, fact is, the amount of support Trump has is going to remain millions of people strong until the day he dies. So he's not going away anytime soon. However, what are you going to talk about once Trump is gone? You can talk about the reason why he's gone. Trump has done a whole lot of things, good or bad, however you want to look at it, that has never been done before by any commander in chief in U.S. history. A whole lot of things. Children are going to be writing book reports, Books are going to be written by whether it's liberals, independents, or Republicans, or actually members of Trump's inner circle, probably most of our lives. I mean, you got to assume there's a hell of a lot of folks that are active Republican politicians right now that are simply keeping quiet because it is advantageous for them to maintain their political office. As Brownsbacker asked, what are you going to do once he's gone? They're going to feel free to come forward and state how they feel. You're going to have a lot of folks coming forward, writing books, journals, interviews. There's going to be a host of things to talk about in regards to President Trump. Whether you like or hate the guy, he is a fascinating politician. He has pushed the envelope in a host of different directions. He's done a lot of things, in my humble opinion, and I'll go right back to the box. But he's done real quick in the comments. Mary Happy Pants said a book report on the most traitorous president we've ever had. Yikes. Well, I'm not going to tackle that, but I will just say this. Like my last caller was suggesting, if Trump is found guilty of this stuff, we don't know that. We can't say that. He hasn't had his day in court yet. But if he is found guilty of this stuff, it will lead to laws being passed, as my last caller said, to make sure other presidents don't just step up and do stuff like this. And I'll give you an example. By the way, tap the screen. Get your boy up to 15,000. Do appreciate that. Let your thumbs not be lazy. First of all, they have to have a law on the books to suggest if a president is being investigated or potentially charged with a crime, if they can convict themselves. In my humble opinion, if you're found guilty of committing a crime, you should never be able to pardon yourself or perhaps maybe a family member or anybody that's involved in the crime. If your brother got 6 DUIs back from the 80s and you want to pardon that, look, I'm fine with that. But if your brother helped you carry the cash out of the bank, no, you should not be able to pardon him. Anybody that's involved in the crime you're in, you should not have any ability to pardon any of those folks. Right now, we don't know that. We don't know if you can do that or not. And it looks like Trump has considered, at the very least, taking that route. The next issue, how many of us before President Trump became president, I'm talking about Maga, I'm talking about Republicans as well, how many of us would have agreed that a felon should not be able to serve in the White House? I think we all would have been like, yeah, that makes sense. That if you're a convicted felon, you should not be able to be president. Well, once again, Trump, if he is convicted, most of his supporters will vote for him, and they have a right to do that. But I do believe if we could go back in time, I think just about the whole country would agree that a felon should not be able to be in the White House. This is just a case where if Trump becomes a felon, they don't believe he should be a felon. But once again, as I stated, that's another Trumpism rather that happened in the Trump administration that has never happened before, that I think a law will come down the books. You can't pardon yourself. You cannot be incarcerated. That's another one. Not only are we talking about a potential felon, but one that is actually serving time. I'm assuming the entire country, bipartisan up the yin-yang, would have agreed wholeheartedly that we cannot have a president serving as commander-in-chief while incarcerated. Once again, once Trump is out of the picture, I think you'll get bipartisan support on that. And last but not least, interfering with your own investigation or whatever. If, like I stated before, if the guy helped you carry money out of the bank, you don't get the right to tell him not to show up to the subpoena and things like that. So all of these things are things that have come up during the Trump era that I think you will see laws coming down the pipe. Once Trump is out of the way, nobody's going to support these laws while they're actively hoping Trump is our next president. But once he is out of the picture, those things are going to probably be, they're going to probably put those up for law. One law is already passed, which is determining whether the vice president can refuse to certify an election or not. That's a law that has come about because of President Trump, because obviously he tried to get Mike Pence not to certify the election. Going back to the box, real quick, Terry King 5795 says, you mean like Joe Biden is doing now? Well, Joe Biden has not been charged with a crime. It's a difference between an investigation, like you're looking into Bill Clinton, whether he got his dick sucked or not, as opposed to him being charged with something like sexual assault or something like that. Trump has active cases going on, not investigations, but active charges that he's dealing with in the court of law. Remember, a lot of folks believe that one of the primary goals of President Trump is to delay this stuff so that he can become president again and then throw it under the rug. That's interfering with an active case. A lot of folks believe that. And I'm talking about on the right, not the left. Going back to the box, we'll keep it going with Tim Robbins. Good afternoon. So we're asking, do you believe that members of Trump's, well, I don't know what happened. The last caller went away. We'll bring it back up. Lynette says it's 100% wrong to allow someone to be president while in prison. I think most of the country would also agree with you if Trump wasn't up on charges right now. Remember Hillary Clinton? If you plead the fifth, that means you work for the mob. You got something to hide. When Trump said that, even Trump supporters applauded. The rules have changed a bit now that Trump is actually going through this stuff. But I can tell you for a fact that if you went back a few years and even asked Trump, do you believe a commander-in-chief should be able to serve in prison, serve as the commander-in-chief while in prison, considering how he thought about Hillary Clinton, he would have said, hell no. But now that it's potentially aimed at him, I'm sure his mindset has changed on it. Looking in the comments, how do you get in the box? Send in a request. Send in a request to get into the box. We'll keep it moving. Mr. Happy. I don't know what happened with my last guest, but we'll Mr. Happy if it lets him in.
Yep.
I've been having
How you doing?
trouble. Okay, there we go. Mr. Happy, good afternoon. Welcome back.
The pleasure as always.
Excellent. Good to have you on again.
Yeah.
So, what do you think? Do you think members, not talking about President Trump himself, but in regards to stop the steal, the Democrats trying to steal the election, yet we have all of these folks that are intimate members of Trump's inner circle actually pleading guilty to doing it. These are no longer accusations anymore. These are folks who stood up in court and said, yeah, I'm guilty of it. Do you believe members of Trump's inner circle or his actual administration deliberately tried to change the results of the 2020 election?
Just like with everything Trump does, he
I
gets
don't
his
get your
hand.
point.
He gets his hand. He got his hand caught in the cookie jar, as far as I'm concerned.
Mm. So you believe Trump himself is guilty
Yeah.
based on what? Because he hasn't pled guilty.
Ba-
What makes what makes you believe Trump is guilty of trying to sway the election?
I mean, look what happened in our look at what happened in our nation's capital with the riot.
Yeah, well, how do you respond to folks who say that Trump said go to the Capitol building peacefully, and those folks decided to act a fool on their own?
No, he didn't. He told him to go raise hell, and that's exactly what they did.
Yeah. What about the notion that Trump wanted to have security to make sure it was a safe event, and that Nancy Pelosi let everybody down?
If that's actually the case, then and I do mean if, I just want to make that clear,
Yeah.
then then I would say exactly the same thing with Pelosi that I said about just now said about Trump.
So let's just for shits and giggles, like you said, if it was Nancy Pelosi's job and she deliberately did not do it, should she be held accountable for what happened at the Capitol building?
Yes.
Right.
And what I'm getting at is anybody who's there should be held accountable.
Right.
I don't
So
I don't care if you're Lonely Tom or ex President Trump
right.
is what
Any
I'm getting at.
chance, but so when you talk about Trump being responsible for what happened at the Capitol building, is there any chance it perhaps was a fringe group posing as Trump supporters. Antifa, maybe the FBI instigating it. You've heard stories about Ray Epps. Is it possible that the Trump supporters there were trying to just simply protest peacefully, and there were other entities trying to create a mess?
I thought that was proven false, but
Well, the January 6th hearings committee does not seem to have backed that up, but that theory is being floated around. So I just wanted to run it by you. I mean, I haven't heard of anyone that was present there that day blaming the event on Antifa or even to the FBI to any significance. I've heard about Ray Epps, but in terms of a whole, I mean, because you're talking hundreds of people. It would, one guy can't cause all of that. It would have had to take it. It would have had to have been a bunch of FBI agents in the crowd doing that. And I haven't heard. I haven't even heard people that were there suggesting that. But you hold that whole event, January 6th. You believe Trump is responsible for that whole event?
I believe that when he's when you say go raise hell, then yeah, you're responsible.
Yeah. So, how do you think he should be addressed if you believe he's responsible for the Capitol building being, for the most part, what do we want to say? They basically took over the Capitol building, for lack of a better term. How do you think he should be addressed for that? Punished or whatever the case may be?
If he's found guilty, locked up in Guantanamo Bay, and can't run for any office ever again.
Guantanamo Bay, you gonna send him to Cuba?
Yep.
Damn. Damn. All right, Mr. Happy, I got to move it on. You drive a
Yeah,
hard bargain. Damn.
well,
Guantanamo Bay, huh?
before you go, I want to get your. I want to get your. It says I'm a dumb white guy. I want to get your opinion on what's happening in Israel.
Wow, that's a really complicated one. I'll just say this: I'm not going to support Hamas in their actions at all, because even if you do, like, African Americans, we believe we are being oppressed throughout history. You can't go kill a bunch of innocent people and their children in regards to how you feel like you're being treated. I understand how pissed off you can feel, but that is not the way to get any form of equality, justice, whatever. So I can't support Hamas. However, I'm also not going to jump immediately on the I stand by Israel train either, because you can go back, at least in our lifetime, or my old ass, as far back as Jimmy Carter. He wrote a book suggesting that the Palestinians were being greatly mistreated by Israel. Fact is, we hear the complaints from Israel. We ignore the complaints from the Palestinians. President Obama talked about settlements on Palestinian land that the Israelis were doing during his term, and folks ridiculed him for doing it. I believe the Republicans, to show that they supported Israel and was uh, trying to get basically the public sentiment to go against Obama. They did an unauthorized trip to Israel. The Republican Congress, basically in an effort to stiff Obama and embarrass him, went to meet Netanyahu without getting the president's approval. So the Palestinians have been complaining all of our lives. We just been ignoring it. This isn't the way to get people to listen to you, what Hamas did. But yeah, Israel is not innocent in this at all. I hope that kind of answers your question, but it is a complicated scenario over there. But I do got to move it on, Mr. Happy.
All
Appreciate you
right,
coming through.
thanks, man. I wanted to know your thoughts on it because, like I said, I'm a dumb white guy when it comes to that.
Well, I'm not that. I may not be white, but I'm not that smart either. We'll get it. We'll figure it out together, man. Come on back anytime.
All right, see you later, man.
Absolute, absolute. Now, looking in the comments, the question we're asking, simply put, is: do you believe with two guilty pleas now, three in regards to the Georgia case? We've had two of them in the last 2 days. Sidney Powell, a close Trump attorney, and then we had Kenneth Chesborough. Yeah, totally appreciate that. That had mustache there, totally Rocco. Thank you, appreciate that. in regards to the Georgia case of President Trump. Both of these individuals, both Sidney Powell and Kenneth Chesborough, have to testify in all future trials. So that means they got to testify in this Georgia trial that they were on RICO charges for, but all the other trials. So Jack Smith now has access to whatever Kenneth Chesborough and Sidney Powell knows. And it doesn't just say you have to testify. You have to testify truthfully, which means that they're caught in a lie. The RICO shit comes back. Remember, they're facing double-digit numbers in jail. They're facing football numbers. Right now, they get to walk. So there's a hell of a lot of a reason for them to be honest as hell. So the question I'm asking is, with 2 guilty pleas in 2 days, do you believe members of the Trump administration or his inner circle deliberately intended to interfere with the 2020 election on Trump's behalf? Remember, stop the steal? The Democrats are still in the election. Do you believe it was actually happening potentially the other way, where some high-ranking Republicans, very close to Trump, were actually trying to steal the election? Go into the box, tap the screen. Appreciate you folks tuning in. We'll continue moving with Jeff. Good afternoon, Jeff. Welcome to the program.
Man,
Can you hear me?
I finally got in. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear. So what do you think? 2 guilty pleas in 2 days. Does that say anything?
I mean, it does say a lot, but I wanted to just jump on what you talked about a few seconds ago. I
Sure.
don't think Trump is responsible for these people. I mean, I really don't. You're not responsible for anybody's actions but yourself.
That can be true. I don't disagree with that. You're talking about the 2 that just pled guilty. You don't see
Yeah,
them as being. So let me ask you this: both Sidney Powell and Kenneth Chesborough, these are attorneys. They're 60 plus years old. They've well established, deep in their professional careers. Why would they just decide out of the blue to commit these felonies like this? I mean, even if you want Trump back in office, do you want him back in office to the point where you're willing to, face 10, 15 years in prison? Was the economy that good?
I mean, I think honestly, I think all these people that commit these crimes or you know suspected of committed these crimes on the behalf of Trump are all rolling the dice on the fact that he wins the election and gets and pardons all their crimes.
Well, they committed the
You
crime.
know,
Okay, so you're saying you believe that Trump was potentially about to lose, and they decided to commit a crime on the notion that if he did win, due to their fraudulent behavior, he would then pardon them.
of course.
So you're basically saying that they, at the very least, believe that Trump was a corrupt commander in chief.
I mean, I think he did. I mean, I think he did some corrupt things. I don't think he was. I don't know. I think they all do corrupt things.
Well, we're talking
I
about
mean,
stealing. We're talking about stealing the election, though, Jeff. We're talking about you stated you believe they would have tried to interfere with the election because Trump would have pardoned him. So you believe Trump would pardon someone for actually interfering with America's election?
oh, most definitely. If it got him the victory, I think he would.
Hmm. Wasn't he supposed to drain the swamp and expose corruption?
That's what he said he would do, but it didn't look like he would do it.
And it sounds like he's part of it. You make it sound like he is the corruption himself.
They're all corrupt. Biden's corrupt. Trump was corrupt. I'm sure Obama did some corrupt things. I mean, you got to do corrupt things apparently to win elections.
We're talking about stealing an elect. Do you think Obama or Biden potentially stole an election?
Oh, if you don't think Biden potentially stole that election with dead votes, something's wrong with
Hell, I thought Biden himself was dead. How could a man with dementia? How could a man with dementia that doesn't even know where he's at be savvy enough to orchestrate the theft of an election?
I don't know, but a man with dementia just sent $100 billion to Israel last week. So
So then maybe we need to start considering that maybe he doesn't have dementia at all.
I don't know, but he doesn't have to mention when it comes to my paycheck.
Yeah, he seems to be when it comes to accusing President Biden of some fairly complex crimes, he seemed to be able to commit this stuff. But then when he's on stage, he all of a sudden goes back to having dementia and not knowing where he's at. What does he do? Snap out of it and turn into Einstein all of a sudden?
All of a sudden, isn't that funny?
I
It's
don't.
just crazy.
The point I'm asking, I guess the point I'm trying to make is, can you turn Alzheimer's off and on at will, or dementia rather? If you got dementia, do you have the power to turn it on and off at will?
I don't think you do, but the people
Yeah,
around him are turning it on and off at will.
yeah. I'm starting to think that maybe we just, folks who are watching this guy through the television set and suggesting that he has all these mental ailments, maybe they're just perhaps misdiagnosing the guy and seeing something that's not there.
I don't know, but he doesn't have to mention when it comes to my paycheck. I can assure you that.
Yeah, fair enough. But so obviously you would prefer Trump back in office over Biden then, right?
Of course, with my paycheck, of course. I
So
made great money with Trump.
and ain't nothing wrong with that. I hear you on that. But let me ask you this: out of them other 7 or 8 Republican candidates that are running, Nikki Haley's, the Ron DeSantis's, the
Oh, I'm
Chris
going with
Christie's.
I'm going with Vivek all the way.
Okay. So if it came so when it comes down to your primary vote, would you pick Vivek over Trump?
Probably not. No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't pick Vivek over Trump. I would go Trump, and then hopefully Vivek would be the running mate.
So how do you feel casting a ballot for Trump after admitting that he is capable of trying to steal an election? Oh, I'm unhappy. I'm unhappy. For some reason, my last caller got removed. Jeff, if you're still tuned in, file an appeal. You didn't say shit. There's no misinformation in that. I really hate that. Obviously, somebody potentially on the left watching in got pissed off at my last caller and had him removed. He didn't say anything worthy of being removed. No, there was no misinformation in that. Continuing on. Looking in the comments, Pete says, "Well, yeah, he was misinformed." Okay, shit. The freaking divorce judge told me I was misinformed. Still got that damn divorce though. Anyhow, what I'm saying, folks, is let folks speak. I always make it clear I don't block, ban, or censor anyone for their commentary. Try to watch the program. Most guests are only on 5 minutes or so, and we move on. If you cannot handle folks who have an opinion that differs from yours for 5 minutes, I invite you to go to the next live stream or go watch some YouTube or something like that. Pornhub has good material on it all day long. You can't beat the content there. But if you can't handle it, please tune out because I do like to have folks be able to speak here. The whole purpose of the program is civilized dialogue from both sides of the aisle without anybody being blocked, banned, or censored. We've been making it happen for over a year, but there are always haters within the ranks. Anyhow, looking in the comments. Appreciate that. Ginger always comes through with the boxing gloves. Thank you, baby. Thank you. Looking in the comments, Obama was legit. Yeah, Obama's been out of office now 7 years, and there's no claims of him still in an election. None at all. So I don't know where that one came from, but I have to ask the people. I do have to ask the people. We're going to keep it moving. We're going to go to the box. Appreciate you folks tuning in. You could be anywhere you want to be. It's always good to have you here. Scrolling through, we'll go to 2-0 for this shit. Love the name. Always a pleasure. Come on in here. All right, 2-0 for this shit. We deliberate election interference. Is it possible members of Trump's campaign, administration, inner circle deliberately interfered with the 2020 election? What say you, 2-0?
The swamp is here, man. The swamp.
Are you telling me that the swamp was not drained?
The swamp wasn't drained, man. The swamp, he brought the swamp with him. Hey, let me just say this real quick, man. Nobody on the left is going to report these guys. It's too funny. Why
No,
would we
people.
ever?
No, I like the joke and the sarcasm, but no, I'm sure people on the left do report. People on the right
You
do
think
it as well. But that,
niggas on the left?
yeah, you especially you get some of the QAnon folks on there. I don't think TikTok is just sitting back listening to our shit. I think it's haters in the audience, man.
I would never report anybody. I would never do
Neither
that
would
there.
I. Yeah,
One reason
neither
why
would
I
I. But
wanted to get in contact with you again, because you always say MAGA don't get a fair shot. A fair shot of what? A fair shot of what?
a fair shot to speak. I have actually posted some MAGA related material on YouTube, and I got what do you call it, demonetized, banned. I mean, it does happen. Some of my MAGA videos, when I post things that are not just bashing Republicans, just bashing them up the yin yang, you do get. I could bash the hell out of MAGA and get away with it a lot more than I could be favorable for MAGA and bash Biden, and I don't think that's fair. I mean, there are criticisms for both sides of the aisle. I think people should be able to speak.
Well, you lost me on that. What's MAGA related material? You lost me on that.
I mean, it could just be somebody at a Trump rally saying something about President Biden, or saying something about President
Yeah,
Obama,
you do it too.
or Trump claiming that he is being mistreated by the justice system. And they actually do censor some of that stuff and call it misinformation.
Well, a lot of it is. I mean, I mean, I watch a lot of your lives. I know how you operate. You keep the things going. MAGA is your core audience. I understand it and everything. But for me, I gotta swear, man. I sit back, get me a beer, and listen to you do your lives.
Let me give you a perfect example. During the 2012 election, Obama versus Mitt Romney, Biden speaking on behalf of his leader, which was he was a VP, Biden speaking on behalf of Obama, stated that if Mitt Romney was elected, he would put us back in chains. Complete misinformation. Certainly, when you look back at it now, Biden is about as calm as a kitten compared to Trump. That was a horribly wrong statement. I could post that on TikTok all day and get away with that. That's misinformation up the ass, and they let you
That's not
post that.
misinformation.
That's what I'm talking
That-
about.
That's not misinformation. That was a statement. Misinformation is taking something that is true, and then turning it around. That was a statement that he made. That's not misinformation.
Mitt Romney
No,
is
it's
going to
not.
put y'all back in chains. That's not misinformation.
No, that's a statement that he made. Misinformation is it was 70 degrees yesterday, and you tell somebody no, it was 67 or
What?
45. That's
So
misinformation.
you said it was a statement that he made. When he made that statement, was the information accurate?
That was his statement. That was his statement. That wasn't information. You understand what I'm saying?
No, actually,
You
I'm
understand
trying to
exactly
figure it
what I'm
out.
saying.
I am
That
confused.
was
I'm going to admit it. I'm confused
that's when you
because
take facts. When you take facts and you throw them out there as something that other than facts. That's misinformation. That's what misinformation is.
he didn't
For
say.
example, for example, Nancy
Here's the
Pelosi, Nancy
here's
Pelosi being in charge of security at the January 6th rally. That's misinformation.
Yeah, here's the
Trump's in
difference.
charge of that.
Let me say this, because some folks are agreeing with you and some are some folks are saying it's his opinion. When you say an opinion, I think or I believe or I feel confident that if Mitt Romney is elected, he's going to put y'all back in chains. He didn't say any of that. He said he's going to put y'all back in chains. He stated it as if it's fact. That's
That's just it.
misinformation.
That's not misinformation. I'm sorry. I'm
I don't
sorry.
get how we differ on this.
I just told you how. When you take facts and you misthrow them as something else other than that. And
Okay.
then you go spit it out. That's misinformation or lies. That's misinformation. But if you take an opinion, I think the Knicks are gonna win or the Jets are gonna win, and they don't. Am I giving out misinformation?
Okay.
No.
So, so let me ask you this. Recently, I think early, a couple days ago, maybe 3 or 4 days ago now, there was a major news story. A hospital was bombed on the Gaza Strip. And a host of Democratic politicians immediately blamed the bombing on the Israelis. And it has come out with a hell of a lot of evidence, even from Al Jazeera, that the bombing was a malfunctioning missile from Hamas. So if you post something from the Democrats or left-leaning politicians or Hamas stating that that was actually done by Israel, is that misinformation?
No, it's incorrect information to put out like that there. If you know something to be true, if you know something to be true and you misthrow it as something else, it's misinformation. If you give
Okay,
out incorrect information, that's something else. But if you know something's true and you give it out as something else, like for example, how about how about the Republicans right now? They're trying to blame the speakership on the Democrats because it was 200 something of them and only 8 Republicans that voted against McCarthy. They tried to blame it on the Democrats and say they're the one that pushed McCarthy out. But Republicans got the majority. That's misinformation.
see, you really confused me how you word this, because if you look at the numbers in regards to the votes coming in, overwhelmingly it is Democrats voting that way. But we don't expect the Democrats to vote in favor of Jim Jordan or some shit like that. The Democrats did what we expect them to do. However, based on the actual numbers, it is correct. The Democrats are the reason McCarthy got kicked out. If the Democrats had voted for him, the Republicans would not have been able to stop it, because there was enough Republicans that he would have got a pretty big majority if the Democrats weren't all voting for Jim Jeffries. Now the Democrats are doing what we expect them to do, but they are, by the numbers, responsible for what they're complaining about.
The Democrats didn't
And
open the chair.
Matt Gaetz, of course.
The Democrats didn't open the chair.
Yeah, I agree with
The
that part.
Republicans had the majority.
Well, let me just say it like this. While the Democrats, by the numbers, because overwhelmingly it's the Democrats voting this way, are technically responsible, in reality, the Republicans already knew that. You don't expect, I mean, they know when they're going in these little secret meetings, you don't expect the Democrats to vote for anybody but Jim Jeffries. You already know that. So when Matt Gaetz decided to challenge McCarthy, yeah, on a real, Matt Gaetz is responsible, because what the Democrats did, they already knew that was going to happen when he challenged them.
Hey, do you remember on January 6th when Rudy said, let's go down there and get him?
You said what?
On January
Yeah,
6th.
wait. So Hakeem Jeffries. I'm saying the wrong name, but go ahead. Say that again.
You remember when Rudy ginned the crowd up on January 6th and speak before
Juliet,
him? And to speak
let that
before
trial
him?
by combat.
And to speak before him? Rule the crowd up?
Steve Bannon. You got to
Yes.
take our country back.
Well, no, it was somebody before Steve Bannon.
Oh,
Yeah, there was
was
a
it
sister, I think.
Roger Stone?
No, not Roger Stone. Roy something, I think.
Okay, all right. It was a whole host
And
of
then
them.
you
What
keep
about it?
saying that Trump said go down there peacefully? After all that? You keep saying Trump said go down there peacefully?
Listen, I have to be able to play devil's advocate.
I know
You
you do, man.
understand?
I
You
know you do,
understand?
brother. I know you
I
do.
mean,
And
I
also,
totally understand. I totally understand it. You go see Kevin Hart. There are 2 or 3 opening acts that already got you laughing
yeah.
before you even come on stage. But when
And
Trump came on stage, people were already pissed off. So you already kind of know what's going on. But I
and
got to move it on to
let
you
me
know
say one
how
more
we
thing
do it.
before you let me go. One more thing before you let me
Sure,
go. I think I might have said it already. If Nancy was in charge of the troops, what was Trump doing?
chilling.
All right,
But
brother.
no,
All
listen,
right.
I appreciate it. I'll talk about it on the other side. But appreciate you. Too old for this shit. Always a pleasure talking to you. Real quick, in regards to the Nancy Pelosi allegedly being responsible for security, I said this on yesterday's show, and I do appreciate a few of you guys who are tapping the screen. We might be able to get to 30,000 if a few more of you join. Got a big ass fly in here. God damn. But what I was saying in regards to Nancy Pelosi being in charge of providing the National Guard for protection, President Trump knows that politically, Nancy Pelosi is probably his biggest enemy by far. I mean, you're holding rallies all over the country throughout your presidency, criticizing her constantly, even suggesting that she be locked up. Big dog with the subscription. Thank you. Damn it. Thank you. Appreciate that. Haven't seen one of those in a minute. I do appreciate that, big dog. Nancy Pelosi is Trump's arch enemy. So if you're going to have an event on January 6th, and you know it is the job of your arch enemy to provide security, you damn sure better make sure that that is being taken care of. The possibility that Nancy Pelosi may not provide adequate security so that your whole event goes awry is super high. This woman does not have your best interest at heart by any means at all. You've been talking about her constantly for 4 straight years. So at the very least, if it's her job to provide security, you should be on the phone with those entities 2 or 3 days ahead of time. Did Nancy give you a call? How many troops are you sending? Where are you going to be stationed at? You should be checking into that, because it is highly possible this ship may fall through and you are going to be put under the bus. That's what I'm talking about, assuming it is Nancy Pelosi's job. Now, the January 6th Hearings Committee said it was not her job. But even if it was her job, Trump dropped the ball in not making sure that that was provided. And then, of course, we got to talk about the 4-hour gap in which all this was happening and nobody could get in contact with him, and he didn't do anything while all of this stuff was going awry. It's hard to exclude him from any of this, even when his own vice president is suggesting that Trump didn't even call to check on me for 3 days after January 6th. There's no way to exclude him from that. Something went wrong there. At the very least, make sure she provided the security. That doesn't make any sense at all. You show up there on January 6th and you don't see the National Guard, and you see it. All we're going to talk about is shit that's going to piss this crowd off. At the very least, at that point, while Steve Bannon, Roger Stone, or one of these other folks is on stage speaking and hyping up the crowd, get on the phone and find out why is my troops not here. I mean, there's just no way to exclude them from that. At the very least, it's an act of negligence. Going back to the box, she still would have had to provide it whether the astronaut, it's still her fault. Well, Doug, like I stated, even if we say it's Nancy Pelosi's fault, Trump also receives a negligent strike on it. There's no way you can wipe him clean of that. He absolutely had to know security was not present. He would have had to know that. So you got an event where everybody's pissed off, they're yelling, to take the life of the vice president. You know this event is completely unsecured. And you don't get to blame that on somebody else when you are aware that security is not there. At some point, now you need to act. She's been negligent. There's a dangerous situation going on. You're the president. Do something about it. You don't just sit there and just let it continue going on. You down 911 when you got a fire. If they haven't showed up, you don't just sit there and let the fire burn you up. Then I'm going to have to do something myself. Trump didn't do anything. Looking in the comments, Pelosi doesn't control the National Guard. Yeah, that's what came out of the January 6th Hearings Committee. But I understand, folks. I'm just simply saying for those who are blaming Nancy Pelosi, like Doug is saying, it's her job. Yeah, it is her job, according to you. But what happens if she doesn't do her job? Do you just continue the dangerous situation? If you know you got people hyped up, and you suggest it's her job, and you look around and she clearly has not done her job, your response is to just do nothing? Just let it happen, huh? Going back to the box, we'll keep it moving with Wrath Man. Welcome to the program. Members of Trump Inner Circle pleading guilty to interfering with the election. Do you believe, Rathman, good afternoon, do you believe it's possible members of Trump's inner circle were deliberately trying to sway the 2020 election?
Yes.
Do you think that Trump was orchestrating them to do it, or were they just doing it on their own?
Uh, you know, I think that the dialogue Trump and his people had was confusing and misleading, and that
Give me an
there's a lot
example.
of
Elaborate. What do you mean?
well, okay, well, that one lawyer that just uh, is collaborating with the FBI now. I mean, I feel like and Rudy Giuliani just having those weird meetings in what, a car lot, and it's always just one crazy embarrassing scenario after another. I
But
feel like
like I've been asking the other callers, if these individuals acted alone without any encouragement from Trump, why would they do that? I mean, all of these folks are well into their careers, nearing retirement. Why would they go out and commit a host of felonies when they all are wealthy? All of them could have rode off into the sunset with plenty of money. Why would they do this if Trump is not asking them to do it? Why would they just throw their careers away, or potentially throw their careers away?
man, that he's an anomaly. Look at all the people that follow him now, and Trump always says, "Oh, it wasn't my fault." He always blames everybody else. No matter whatever happens, it's a witch hunt. It's bad luck. Meanwhile, the guy badmouths everybody, and there's so many good people that just believe him and will vote for him and love him and think he's getting stuff done when he literally ran a fraudulent university. It's just one calamity after another, one failed business after another, and people still think he's a successful businessman because he's funny and he's entertaining and he's a mouthpiece. But when you really look at what he gets done, he hasn't done anything. He hasn't built any of the wall. He hasn't done any of that stuff. And yet people continue to follow him, even to the point where it's like you're pointing out, people that have prowess and money and positions, even those people follow him. It's disgusting. I don't understand it.
I mean, you're almost painting folks as if they're like part of a cult or something.
Well, I mean, if the shoe fits, right?
Yeah, shit. So it is possible, though, based on what you're saying, that Trump had nothing to do with this, that these folks are just trying to basically steal the election for Trump on his behalf, and he was just an innocent player and it's just simply, in the system.
Maybe they just got caught up in it. Sometimes there's a situation going on, like like if you're at a big party and everybody starts fighting, you just start throwing swings yourself. Sometimes you don't know who you're fist fighting, but it's just game on. Everything breaks out, and maybe people just got swept up into it.
Yeah.
I just feel like Trump has this ability to get people to do things that they normally would not do.
That could be scary, though, because let's say Trump does not win in 2024 and he feels once again that the Democrats stole the election from him, or he ends up being found guilty of a crime and they started talking about jail time, and he speaks up and says that this is a travesty of justice and they're destroying democracy. And your response that he could get people to do things for him, is it possible that he might use his powers for evil?
Oh yeah, yeah. No, I think. I mean, come on. He already tried to overturn a fair election. These people that still think the election was fraudulent, why are they still going to vote in this next one then? I mean, do these people think that every single election was legit except for the one Trump ran in? I mean, that's just insane. If you listen, if these Trumpsters are listening right now to your show, let me just say this: if you really think that was fraudulent, then stop voting. Period. Because they're all fixed. It's pointless.
You raise a good point, and I asked the same thing. That if you think the election is not, if you think the election is fixed, or what did Trump say is rigged, why vote at all? Their belief is that, well, if we vote by larger numbers, it'll be so overwhelming in favor of Trump that they won't have no choice but to give it to him. They won't be able to cheat. That's the belief they have.
Well, that's just, I mean, rigged is rigged. It doesn't matter. They could lie about the numbers. You know what I mean? If you're going to believe that, then you're just willing to believe anything. The problem is, Tim, is the fact that people have these fringe ideas and, listen, there's lots of good people on both sides. You know what I mean? I'm not a huge supporter of the
Last
left.
guy that said that got ridiculed like crazy. Good people on both sides. Go ahead, keep
Well,
going.
okay. Let me say this. I know lots. I don't like. I live in Texas, and I have friends that are huge right wing supporters, and they're still my friends. I don't care. I don't walk in their shoes. I don't know what they had to go through life. You know what I'm saying? Uh,
Right.
but I will say that, there's not everything. I'm going to vote against Trump, but I would vote for a Republican again. I just think that what the things Trump says and does it's just bad for this country. And then you got people like I was listening to your show the other day, and they had this guy that was, talking about how Tom Hanks is dead and Hillary's dead and all these just wild and it's just like, where are these people coming? I mean, look, I don't blame you for not liking Joe Biden, but these people are just so far to the right, and it's just all these bizarre conspiracies. It's become insane. And Hillary Clinton's eating people. It's like, what happened to just arguing about the facts? Where are these knuckleheads coming from? It's insane.
Yeah, I have heard of people. Hillary
Yeah, I
Clinton's
mean,
eating people. Yeah, I've heard it. Trust me, I've heard it plenty of times. And yeah, Joe Biden was taken out December 31st, 2018, apparently, and Trump oversaw it, and it happened on Guantanamo Bay. I have heard that many times. I don't know where that stuff comes from. I had a guest try to say Q and Trump are different, and I asked her, then why was Trump wearing a Q lapel, and she had never saw that before. So I don't know what under the Trump administration has created all of these conspiracies, because we have gotten ourselves into a place where there are people out there, some voters who trust no one but Trump, no one else in Washington but Trump. And that is
right.
a frightening scenario.
I don't know how he's pulled it off. I really like what you do. I watch a few other, I don't really get too political, but you engage right wing people and you give them just enough pushback where you make people think. I notice that about you, which is a good thing because I don't think there's a lot of people out there doing that. There's a lot of name calling. So, these right wing people are lucky that there's people out like you that are kind of trying to open their eyes, just some very obvious things. Another thing that I hear time and time again, especially on your show from people that lean to Trump, is the fact that it's like, oh, well, CNN has you guys hypnotized and you don't know what you're thinking. That's like calling somebody stupid. No, people aren't stupid. They just think differently. Just because if I watch CNN or Fox, it doesn't mean I'm incapable of free thought.
Yeah,
But
I
somehow,
don't. Yeah, I never like the notion that if the media goes against what I think, the media is wrong. And because I've asked the same question, why don't African Americans seem to support well, it's the media. And it's like, no, there has to be more to it. Everybody ain't sitting around making all their decisions based on the media. There is a lot more to it. But some folks, it gives you an easy scapegoat. I do got to
right.
move it on, but I give you the last word, Raph.
Right. Yeah. Listen, if liberal, there's no such thing as media that's making people stupid. So, these people, when you call somebody and say that they're not thinking because of me, that's just calling somebody stupid. I don't think that about somebody that's going to vote for Trump. I just feel like people made a decision based on whatever, and that's their decision. And I respect it. That's what America's about. But don't call people stupid because that's pointless. That's not understanding what the issue really is.
Rathman, very well said. Appreciate you coming on, man.
All right. Thanks, liberal. Great show.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, moving on real quick. I got a ton of somebody made it rain with a ton of coins. I forgot the name. I really hate that I can't thank you for it. And obviously, Crystal with the Galaxy. Let's go. Thank you. Thank you. I definitely saw both of those and I wanted to let you, but I try to, I'm really involved with the guest and I try to stay on point. So I wanted to bring it up, but I was listening to that. Joker, that's who did that shit. Make me feel like I'm in a 1990s casino when they actually use coins. Thank you. Looking in the comments section, what time do you start? Generally 12:30-ish, depending on what my duties are on my day job. Around 12:30 is when I've been coming on lately. Why wouldn't Nancy call the troops for a Trump rally? They wasn't supposed to go to the Capitol. And that's another, look, there's a host of pushbacks. I mean, Trump is stating that he was going to have a peaceful protest followed all the proper procedures, and Nancy Pelosi's job was to provide security. The January 6th hearings committees basically dispel all of that. But I'm just for shits and giggles for folks who say that Trump did everything right and Nancy Pelosi failed. I'm pushing back on that simple response. If Nancy Pelosi didn't do her job, whose job is it to then follow up? I mean, no matter what you do for a living, if you screw up at your job, somebody else has a responsibility to fill in where you failed, and then they can discipline you later. The idea that if Nancy Pelosi doesn't send the National Guard in, you just do it without her? You don't follow it up at all? That makes no sense, especially when people are calling you right and left, telling you there's a problem. That makes no sense at all on President Trump. You can blame her later, but right now, you're down, like I said, you're down 911 and the fire department doesn't show up. You don't just sit there and burn because the fire department didn't do their job. Somebody has to step up. Trump didn't step up. In fact, he stepped down and went into hiding. Remember, Joe Biden is in his basement. During that event, Trump was hiding. Holloway. Appreciate the lemonade. Thank you. Go back to the box. Looking in the comment section, we'll keep it moving with Jules. Been holding on. I do appreciate that. Trump's inner circle. 2 guilty pleas in 2 days. What does that mean? My last caller dropped for some reason. We'll keep it moving. Brownsbacker says if the left was the ones in the Capitol on January 6th, you'd hear nothing of it. Yeah, you would. You'd be hearing it from the folks on the right. If everything happened on January 6th was reversed and it was the left doing it, that was an Obama crowd. Hopefully not black people, because some of them would be deceased. But let's assume it was a bunch of Karens and white liberals that were there on January 6th doing the same stuff. You think the right would be saying Obama didn't have nothing to do with that? He just told all these people to come here and it was Boehner's job to provide, or Newt Gingrich or whoever happened to be the speaker at the time, it was their job, and the right would be bitching about that too. That's how politics works. There's no way that the right would let an event like that happen where they're in the Capitol building smearing feces on the walls. Your guests are smearing feces on the walls. And you don't have nothing to do with that. They're only here because of you. The right would be tearing up for that. So, yeah, you want to talk about what the right would be doing? Looking in the comments, that's a very racist comment. Look, I understand which one is racist, the Karens or me suggesting that if it was black protesters on January 6th. Look, I gotta call it as I see it. Isn't that why we supported Trump? Many of you folks state is because he calls it as he sees it. Yeah, there's no way I'm going to believe that thousands of African Americans could do the same thing that Maga did on January 6th. I understand it may not be popular with some of you folks, but there's no way I would believe that a whole Capitol building full of people that looked like me would have got out of there with the same results. It would have been Ashley Babbitt's all over the damn place. Looking in the comment section, or better yet in the box, we'll keep it moving. Old School. Love the name. Appreciate it. She could handsome. You let the clowns loose. Nobody's clowns. Look, we got folks on the right and left. Good afternoon, Old School.
Hello.
Hey, question we're asking. Appreciate you coming on. The question we're asking is, with 2 members of Trump's inner circle pleading guilty in 2 days, is it possible that people that work for Trump were actually trying to steal the election?
Well, the way things are going, anything's possible. My outlook on everything is a debate. The truth has gotten so stirred up. Misinformation's gotten stirred up. We don't know what to believe nowadays. It's hard to even argue anything because you're not sure if you're even correct or if they're correct. I mean, it's all gotten so far out of hand. Let me present it to you this way, because both of the individuals that pled guilty are long-term lawyers, so they know the law. Why would they plead guilty all of a sudden? Why do you think that would have happened? Money talks.
You think they're being paid off?
Who's to say that? Yeah, I mean, who's to say they didn't? I mean, they're about to retire. I mean, they're already rich. I mean, they really got nothing to lose either way. It's hard to believe anything. Kind of like that man said a while ago. You know, if you don't trust the system, don't vote. I've never voted my entire life up until that election, and I had the mindset that it's rigged. Okay, well, I'm going to step up. I'm going to do the right thing. I'm going to vote. Well, I voted for Trump, and I just, in my eyes, when I say my eyes, the media, the people around me, I just knew he was going to win, and then he didn't. So it kind of put a confirmation on me that I was correct. It is corrupt. And so, I mean, he says don't vote, and I kind of got that mentality. I ain't going to vote again, but I strongly want to. But
right.
You really just don't know who to believe anymore. The media, I mean,
but what would lead you to believe highly established members of Trump's inner circle have been paid off? I mean, have you seen anything that leads you to believe, or is that just something you feel? Have you seen anything because they're taking guilty pleas?
There's just, honestly, I'm not saying that's what happened, and I want to believe that that's not what happened, but who's to say it couldn't? I mean, we really don't know what's going on. You know, like some people like Biden, some people like Trump. When it comes down to it, neither one of we don't know anything about these people except what we're told or what we see. We don't know them people. The only reason I voted that year and the only reason I voted for Trump is the only fact that I knew is that Biden was a politician and Trump was a businessman. That's the only two facts that I knew about these two people. And I voted for Trump because I thought we needed a businessman. And
well, let me respond to that. And by the way, so-called mom with the galaxy. Thank you. So-called mom, I'm gonna call you mom. Thank you. Let me ask you that. So when you say we don't know what to believe in, anything could be happening. Is it possible that since anything could be happening, is it possible that maybe Trump himself tried to steal the election?
It's possible, yes, but I really don't understand people's definition of stealing the election. From my understanding, he just requested a recount, which I personally had an experience. I was dating a girl. She was a widow, and she actually received a ballot in the mail for her dead husband. All she had to do was check the box and send it in. I seen it firsthand. So, I mean, who's to say that this didn't... I mean, she could have checked either one of them for sure. I mean, but this... I don't agree with the paper ballots. I understand that some people can't make it, and it's just all gotten so mixed up, man. I don't know what to believe. I try to keep an open mind on everything, and I have no idea on which way to go.
Right. So when Trump stated that he won the 2020 election by a landslide, do you believe that?
Honestly, I do. I mean, everyone around me, just the way everything was going in my eyes, I just knew he had won. I mean, I don't know if it's because of the area I was in, maybe the news that I had seen, but
what area were you in?
I'm in Atlanta, Georgia.
Okay.
So I mean, I don't know if my environment caused me to believe this or what. I mean, but I just knew he was winning by a long ways, and all of a sudden he didn't, and people are talking about corruption, and I already kind of had that in the back of my head anyway, that it was rigged. I think he might have won. I mean, but like I said, the way things are going, I don't know what to believe.
Now, you're in the Atlanta area?
Yes.
The only reason I'm asking you, because user 216 said that's bullshit. I live in Atlanta. He apparently saw something different. But what I want to ask you is this. If he won by a landslide, or at the very, very least, if you feel he won by a landslide, we're nearly 3 years out, old school. Why don't you think he's produced enough proof for that?
Produce enough what? Proof?
Why hasn't he produced evidence of that land? I mean, if you won by a landslide, that means you won by a lot of votes. Why do you think he hasn't produced sufficient proof to satisfy the court that he won by so much?
There's just too many hands in the pot. I mean, it's hard to prove for a fact that, who's guilty, Israel or Gaza? I mean, because we're told so many different stories. I mean, I honestly believe that it's all shuffled up so much, he will never find the proof, definite proof. If he finds proof, then there's also proof on the other end also. Oh no, this proves differently. Well, it's almost like creating confusion. It's creating so much confusion that by the end, no one really knows.
Yeah, but think about what you said. You're saying they never find the proof, which leads me to ask you, with him being commander-in-chief of a country of over 330 million people, and you see what happened on January 6th, should he not have had the proof before making a statement like that and riling people up?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, he should have had proof for sure. You know, he maybe he was thinking like me. Oh, I had to win. You know, like I was thinking, he had to win. You know, I had to win. You know, and he's not a politician. He don't know how to play the game as good as the other guys do, and they're out chessing him. They mated him.
Yeah, but old school. Wait a minute, old school. You can't be going to prom talking about you're not a typical student. You're in your senior year. He's working on a second term. He's a politician now.
Yeah, he is.
Time is over with.
His game is a little different than their game, and it ain't working.
But let's just be clear. He is a typical politician now, because anytime he gets caught up in something, folks say, well, they all do it. So he's doing things that other people do.
Yeah, like they're all crooked. They're all crooked. But I mean, honestly, all I can say is, from my thoughts, I just knew he had won it. Then it really shocked me when he didn't. And why is that? I'm not really sure. Like you said, you know, maybe the area I was in, the talk that was going around, what you hear on the radio, you know, you pick up some stuff that you don't even realize you pick up, you know, and maybe I was influenced to believe that he was going to win. And
well, let me ask you this last question before I move on.
All right.
Why, if Trump won, and there are plenty of people like yourself that believe he won, why do you believe that there is virtually no Republican senator, Republican Congress, or Republican governor saying that he won that election? There's almost virtually nobody in Washington on the Republican side of the aisle is claiming he won.
Maybe I honestly believe Trump is exposing corruption. Yes, he's corrupt himself, I'm sure, in ways, but I honestly believe that he's exposing a lot of the stuff that's going on, and maybe they're trying to protect themselves. And
all of them? You believe the entire Washington body is corrupt?
They're all. It's all about the money. It's all about the money. If people lie to keep it in their minimum wage job, they'll lie to keep that kind of job. And honestly, I think the slate needs to be clean.
You believe really there's not one honest Republican senator or Republican governor out there?
I'm sure there is, but do you think they can truly speak out? You think they can truly speak out and say exactly what they mean? I mean, you got 5 corrupt guys standing around, one straight guy. Most likely he's going to keep his mouth shut.
So then it makes me wonder, if Washington is that corrupt, what good would it do to re-elect Trump? We clearly can't change him. I mean, he served 4 years.
I truly believe that. He cannot fix what he's wanting to fix. It's not possible. The only people that can fix it is us. I honestly believe Congress is through with. I mean, we kind of need to clean the slate and start a whole different thing. I mean, with the internet, do we really need one guy in office representing 1 million people? No, we don't. We could actually run Congress over something other than in a white building. I mean,
so at the end of the day, you would agree that when Trump promised to drain the swamp, he failed at that.
Yes, yeah, he did.
All right.
Yeah.
So that's promises made, promises failed.
Yes, exactly. True. I mean, he didn't know what he was up against.
Yeah. That's what happens when you're a typical politician. You take a job and you don't know the rules. I got to put on the old school.
All right. Thanks for accepting me, and y'all have a good day.
You too. And
We'll
say this because he's not the first person to state that Trump got in and didn't know the rules, didn't know this was going to happen, didn't know that was going to happen. My response is some of that stuff is politics 101. Like, did you think you were going to go into a job? Yeah, architect. Thank you. Had mustache. Shout out to you folks. Tap the screen, by the way. Get your boy up to 50,000. Program is always will remain MAGA friendly. MAGA are my preferred guest. Golden Lion. Yeah, guys are good shit today. Nevertheless, liberals are welcome on the program as well. You can be anywhere you want. It's always good to have you here with your boy. Always a pleasure. The statement I was making is that when we say not that Trump is not a typical politician, and that's why we elected him. Unfortunately, our founding fathers set up the system, and it's designed for politicians. It's not designed for a non-typical politician. And the reason I say that, here's a good example. Trump is a businessman. That's why we elected him. As a businessman, you can walk into the boardroom, point to the director, you can point to marketing exec. You're fired. I don't like what you're doing for the company. You are fired. Like on The Apprentice. But as a president, you can't point at a senator or a congressperson and tell them you're fired. You have to work with them to get the job done. Politicking, that's what that's called. You have to politic. So when you put a person that is not a typical politician into that environment, and they're trying to bring a business mindset into it. Remember, a business, if you own your own business, a business is ran like a dictatorship. My way or the highway is my damn business. If you don't listen to this way, you're fired. That's how a business is ran. Washington, you have to be able to politic. That's why John McCain got up there and gave him thumbs down on his attempt to repeal and replace Obamacare. So when you suggest that you want a businessman as opposed to a typical politician, then you need to change the entire system because the system isn't designed for that. It's not designed for a guy that's going to get in there and, as he say, drain the swamp, expose corruption, and treat everybody like shit, but get his agenda passed. It's not going to happen. And I'll tell you personally at your job, wherever the hell you work, imagine someone coming into your business where you work, your place of employment, telling your employer, if you make me a manager, if you hire me as a manager, I'll help drain the swamp in this place. I'll expose the corruption. I'll name names. If your employer hires that person, are you going to work with them? Do you think all your other employees are going to work with this person who's promised to come in and upset the entire balance of the workforce? Criticizing everybody? No. You're going to have chaos. You're going to have everybody want that individual gone. Think about the police department. If you hire me chief and make me lieutenant, I'll get rid of all your bad cops. I'll name names and point them out. If that lieutenant needs backup, you think anybody's going to show up to that call? Trump promised chaos. It sounds great for us as citizens. We want the swamp to be drained. We want corruption to be exposed. System ain't designed that way. It's not designed that way, which is why even a lot of MAGA are stating that 4 years after Trump has served, the swamp is thicker, deeper than it was before he started, because they're now criticizing a lot of people that he brought with him as also being swamp creatures. He promised us something he can't accomplish. No one can accomplish that. Anyone, left or right, that tries to do what Trump stated he was going to do, which is drain the swamp, name names, and list everybody as corrupt, would have problems. Anyone trying to do that would have those same problems. Going back to the box, unless I'm getting it wrong, you guys let me know. I appreciate you folks tapping the screen. Get your boy up to 60,000. Looking in the comments, we'll go straight to Clinton Walston 75. What am I getting wrong? Is Trump in a circle on his behalf, or do you think Trump may actually have something to do with this? Clinton, welcome back.
Well, hey, brother, how you today?
I'm doing good. What am I getting wrong here?
You ain't getting much wrong. I mean, I don't care if it's Republican, Democrat, what it is. There's corruption at all levels. We're talking from the bottom to the top. And
So,
go ahead.
so with two of Trump's inner circle taking guilty pleas, admitting that they were committing crimes, do you think Trump's inner circle was trying to steal the election?
I don't think they were trying to steal the election. I was like your last caller. I went to bed hour and a half before it was over, and it looked like it was a done deal. Then all of a sudden, you hear nobody knows. If you wasn't there, you don't know. I
Yeah.
mean, you can hear. I can tell you it's raining where I'm sitting in Alabama right now, and if you wouldn't hear. I didn't have a camera on. You wouldn't know. You know what I'm telling you, and that's what I'm getting at. People is told so much, and they see what they want to see, and Biden supporters is not going to agree with Trump supporters. Trump supporters aren't going to agree with Biden supporters because of the agenda, the way things are laid out.
Right.
And
But
I
what
used
about
to.
the notion that Sidney Powell, Trump's own attorney, here's what she admitted in her guilty plea. She admitted her role in the January 2021 breach of the election system. Why is she breaking into election systems? Why is she literally creating fake electors to get information that is illegal? Why would they do that?
I guess trying to climb the corporate ladder. If you're boss, you got so many at work that's brown noses. They brown nose the boss. They kiss their tails. They move up the ladder. You got people who work themselves to death that make the company a lot more money, work twice as hard, and don't get anywhere.
So she believed that if she broke the law, Trump would promote her?
Probably. I mean, I'm never going to know that, and you're never going to know that. I'm
But
just
you're
saying
basically
that
But you're basically saying that even she believed that Trump was corrupt, that he would promote a lawbreaker.
maybe she thought that, and she thought she would do what she needed to do to go up the ladder.
But why would somebody that close to Trump think he's corrupt?
I mean, everybody thinks what they want to. Nobody
Yeah,
makes you
but she
think
got
what you
she
want.
got personal access to the man. She's around him. She got his personal number. She is actually his attorney. Somebody that close to him. What would lead her to believe he's corrupt? To the point where she would actually do something to throw away her whole career and potentially a large portion of her freedom.
Well, just like Mike Pence, why was he up Trump's rear and then all of a sudden flip flop?
Well, Mike Pence claims that, well, not only did Trump, in his opinion, try to get him to do something that was illegal, he claimed he checked into it and Trump was trying to get him to flip the election and he didn't have a legal right to do it.
Well, I mean, you hear that, but Mike Pence himself cannot flip the election. I think I was like your last caller. I mean, I went to bed and thought, hey, it's tied up. It's they got this one, and then all of a sudden you hear about ballots being changed, voter machines being fixed, doors being shut, and other votes coming in still after hours. You hear everything, and nobody really
Yeah.
knows besides the ones that was behind it.
Right. So then
And
it leads to the obvious question. Same thing I'm asking you that I asked my last caller. Why do you believe nearly 3 years out, the Trump administration has not presented sufficient evidence to sway the courts? I mean, even to sway members of his own team. Like I told my last caller, there's no Republican senators, Congress, or even Republican governors that are saying Trump won. He hasn't even been able to convince Republican politicians that he's won nearly 3 years later. Why is that?
well, I mean, they look at Trump. He was president. They went after him. If somebody like a senator or a congressman or whatever, if they brought forth the information, they're going to say, okay, how did you get that information? Where'd you get this? How did you obtain this? And then they're going to be in the middle of it. It's easier to keep your mouth shut and let someone else take the fall. I mean, look at
So
look at it
you
this way. Go ahead, sir.
go ahead. No, go ahead.
Oh,
I'm looking
I
at
was
it
just
this
going to
way.
say, look at it this way. John F. Kennedy, he tried to change a lot of stuff. He was, you know what I'm saying. Don't want to say it on here because it's,
Understood. On the
okay.
line. He
Look at
lost his life.
Abraham Lincoln. Look at Abraham Lincoln. He tried to change so much and done good for people. He was the same way. I mean,
Yeah.
who's to say who's to say that, people don't step forward because they're going afraid, okay, this is such a big topic that, hey, how did you get your information? How did you pertain this information? Well, how do you know this for a fact? And they're going to be in the middle of it thinking, okay, wait a minute, I made you jail time. You know, it's kind of
So
like,
then, if what you're saying is true, I have to ask the question, if everything you're saying is true, that he was actually president for 4 years, they were able to steal the election, actually able to silence all of the Republicans in Washington, why send him back? I mean, what's to say it wouldn't happen again? Why would you pick the same guy to send back who not only could not drain the swamp, by even MAGA's estimate, he expanded the swamp. This would not be the guy to send back. Why not send Nikki Haley or Chris Christie or somebody else?
I can't answer that, but I can answer this. The swamp won't never be drained.
But does it make sense to send a guy back where the swamp got bigger?
Hmm? Not really. I mean, I say it wouldn't, but who's to say the swamp got bigger? Who's to say everybody's just keeping their mouth quiet because,
MAGA.
it's case.
MAGA's. You say who's to say the swamp got bigger? MAGA's to say the swamp got bigger because you guys are accusing folks, military personnel, Mike Pence. Mike Pence didn't have a job until Trump brought him on. Neither did Ambassador Bolden, Scaramucci, all of these swamp creatures that Trump brought. So the swamp got bigger because he brought a bunch of them with him, according to you guys.
Okay, like Mike Pence, you mentioned him. He was Trump's right hand man. All of a sudden, boom, he's on the other side after Biden won the election. I mean, let's just say he's one of them people that plays sides. He's not Republican. He's not Democrat. He's wanting to just get his name out there. Now he's running for president.
But
He
that's
don't
what
want to
I'm
be in it.
saying. But that's what I'm saying. Even if what you're saying about Mike Pence is correct, we have to take into account Mike Pence would not have had the job if it was not for Trump. If you're calling Mike Pence a rhino, he's not loyal and he's crooked. He only came there because of Trump. So at some point, do we not hold Trump for bad hiring policies?
Yeah, exactly. You're right about that. You're absolutely right
Yeah.
about that. I mean,
So
I think Trump does have a problem with like liking someone and then just putting them in a position and study doing like you was talking about your employer. They will grab your application, see what you're capable of, what you have interest in, and what you're good at, and they'll go from there. He just points people if he likes them. Yeah, I'll give you that much. He has bad hiring policies, but like I said again, look at Mike Pence. I mean, I think he's hopping ship with whoever is in control or in power at that moment and trying to
yeah.
get things done. I think Mike Pence knows a lot more than what he's saying because it's just all of a sudden, hey, come to our side. And I'm not saying this happened. I'm just saying that Mike Pence, hey, Democrats say, Mike Pence, come to our side. We've got this election won. Well, when they win, he hops on that side. Now he's protected.
Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute. You believe there's a potential for Mike Pence to become a Democrat?
No, I do not. But I'm just
Oh,
saying that. No, 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 no. I'm not saying that he's going to become a Democrat. I'm just saying Democrats are in control right now, and he just, flipped a 180 on Trump, the guy that gave him the job. They had to be something to persuade that.
is it possible that Mike Pence just thought? By the way, Z-Pack, thank you for that. Appreciate that. Is it possible that maybe Mike Pence just thought Trump was trying to break the law?
Could be. I mean, like I said, who knows? Who really knows? I mean, the thing about it is, in my eyes, I think all Americans and only Americans should apply in the election. I think it ought to be mandatory. Even the folks who cannot get out, I think there ought to be some kind of, we've got computer systems. We have, I can put my debit card in and pay something in China. If you can do that, you can issue every American, every legal, now when I say legal, I'm talking about any nationality, but legal binding American who has the right to vote.
Yeah.
You could issue them a card, and instead of a voter ID, it would have their ID on it, but they have a chip in it, just like a debit card or whatever, the little slide ones, the old style before they come up with chips.
Right.
You can
Right.
slide that thing through a machine. Somebody come to your house and you slide it and you push Democrat, Republican, or Independent or whatever, and you vote yourself. If they issue that card with people who only have um Social Security numbers, then you'll get more of a fair election because these writer
Well,
ballots, I
let
could,
me just say this, Clint. Let me just say this. There is no such thing in a country of 330 million plus people of election that's going to be free and free of fraudulent fraud.
no, not
Because
100%.
I can take your card just like they take credit cards and they can clone and make credit cards. I can pay off the person carrying the machine. I mean, no matter what you do, there is a way to commit an act of fraud against it. Even if you give people IDs, people got fake IDs all over America. There's just
You're
no
absolutely,
way possible to make a system fraud free.
no, it's not ever going to be 100% fraud free. But if you swipe your card and your name comes up and your social security number, let's say the person comes to your house, you make a call to let's just say your local town and say, okay, Miss Mary can't get out and vote. Okay, she's wheelchair bound, she's bedridden, but she wants to vote. Somebody comes to her house, somebody holds that machine up, you know, however it be, with a protective on it. She swipes her card, she pushes her 5 or 6 digit, 3 digit, whatever voter ID number in or whatever, or a secret number that she only knows in her head that she comes up with, just like a debit card. They would be a lot less of it. It's a lot easier when you take
Well,
paper.
here's the problem. There's a few problems. Like with Ruby Freeman, first of all, the woman coming to her house with the machine, folks will say, I need to be able to stand 6 feet by her to see what they're doing with the machine. Second thing, let's say you got a person that's like Dianne Feinstein, may she rest in peace. So they had to tell her who to vote for before she died. You got this old woman, you're at her house with the machine and she's pushing the buttons. Maybe her grandma pushed this one. So all of a sudden now we're complaining that this woman don't even know how to vote, and some her kids are telling her. There's a whole host of things that can still go wrong with your system. But I would also say this: higher turnout is generally bad for folks on the right. So when you talk about having people come to everybody's house and make it easier to vote, I can guarantee you the right is not going to be for that at all. That's why one of the reasons that we are not in fans of mail-in votes is because it's making it easier for people to vote. When you hear anybody putting up a hurdle to vote, it's generally on the right because higher voter turnout is not good for people on the right. So I don't think you would ever get the right to agree, even to the setup you talked about. But the fact is, you're going to their house and you're making it easier for people to vote. The right would be against that.
Well, I mean, it's just like me. Years ago, I had family who voted Democrat. I had family who voted Republican. Let's just say your family voted all Democrat.
Right.
More than likely, then if your family voted Democrat, you grew up Democrat, you believe them ways, correct?
Generally, yeah.
Okay. Well, let's just say Grandma Mary is laying in the bed, like we said, and then all of a sudden she can't vote. Let's just say it is against the law. Yes, we know it's illegal to
Yeah.
do this. Let's just say her son raised up Democrat, still voted Democrat. Well, he pushes them buttons. It's still wrong because he done voted. He's voting for his mother. You're absolutely correct. Nothing is ever going to be 100%. But in a world that so technology, you can put a man on the moon in 1969. There's got to be something. You come up face recognition, thumbprint. I mean, yeah, they can grab her hand and put it on there. I understand that too. But I'm just saying that there's too many dead people voting. There's too many. That's just like Alabama. We've got one of the most corrupt politician systems in Montgomery in the United States because, and I'm going to get off key, but I'll get right back on it. Like the Cherokee Indians was never it, and the Creek Indians and other tribes was never recognized as a tribe by the federal government, even though they was moved out and they had thousands of years in the Northeast Alabama and, North Georgia and North Carolina area and South Tennessee. They were moved to Oklahoma. Okay. That was the thing. But the Porch Creek Indians is the only one in Alabama. And guess where that Porch Creek Indians are located? Right next to Montgomery, which all the politicians are. And we have no lottery. We have no lottery. There's too many dead people voting no lottery because the politicians is getting a big kickback off that dog track right next to Montgomery and the Porch Creek Indians and all that. And they offered to pay the state of Alabama out of debt 100%, and they wouldn't let them. The thing about it
No,
is,
and like I said, I mean, I hear what you're saying. Well, like I said, that goes to the point I'm making is that you're never going to have totally fair elections. Hell, I'm an African American. I wasn't even allowed to vote in majority of the Republican presidential elections throughout history. So clearly,
yes, sir.
a whole host of them have been unfair, probably from 1776 up to about 1976. Most of
Pretty close.
those were unfair elections.
I
So,
agree with you.
yeah, so this isn't something new, but I do got to
Yeah.
move it on, Clinton. I
All
give
right,
you the
brother.
last word. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, with all the technology we've got and everything, if it's face recognition, if it's what it is, I mean, I think another thing, does elections or not have to have like a Democrat and a Republican standing there, like to make sure it's legal and fair?
I don't, there's only so many checks and balances you can have. Like, for instance, when you mentioned the sliding machine come to your house, and I immediately said, well, then you're going to have somebody else saying, well, I want to come to the house also to watch the mother put the thing in the sliding machine, just like Ruby Freeman is taking the votes. And now all of a sudden they want to watch Ruby Freeman taking I mean, I don't know where it ends. If you don't trust people, you don't trust people. You're going to then
Okay.
say, well, I want to make sure the machine is calibrated right, or I
Okay.
want to make
Yeah.
sure the person bringing the machine out is not a liberal. I mean,
Okay.
I don't know where it ends.
You know how you put your debit card in and it tells you when you
I
pull
know
up.
what you're talking about. Yeah, I know
Yeah.
what you're talking about.
Okay. If you was a registered, let's say Republican, and that card was only to the vote Republican, and that's the way you wanted to vote. You slide it in, the chip takes it, it pulls it out. Nobody could corrupt that. I'm not saying they couldn't break in and do it, but I'm just saying that it's like,
Clinton, do you realize how many highly technical credit cards get hacked every day? Not just a magnetic strip, but they actually got a chip on it. They can clone anything you create. We'll
oh,
never
I'm
get
not
to the
saying
point
they
where they
can't,
can't
but
clone things.
well, like I say, well, maybe we need to get back to where like the 1800s, back in the Hatfield McCoy days, where you take a shot of whiskey and you write it down.
I gotta go. Appreciate it,
You too,
Clinton.
brother. Have a good one.
Hey, good talk. Good talk. All right, moving on. And that's what, and that my take on that is that, well, first of all, by the way, when you look at the way the courts ruled that there was not widespread election fraud. And as I stated before, like I was telling him and the previous caller before him, I don't think there's hardly any Republican senator, Republican governor, or Republican congressperson that is going around saying that there was widespread fraud and the Democrats were cheating. For the most part, it seems like overwhelmingly that's coming solely from President Trump. Also, keep in mind, in the 2020 election, in any presidential election for that matter, we don't just vote for president. We vote for senators, Congress people. We vote for down ballot, city council, your damn librarian. Oftentimes we vote for bills and legislation. In the 2020 election, other than Trump, the Republicans actually outperformed expectations. So if the election was fraudulent in 2020, that means there's a hell of a lot of Republican Congress and senators that are serving today that shouldn't have the job. You don't hear any complaints about that. Even from President Trump, who claims the election was stolen from him. Well, what about all the Republicans that won that year? You talk about all these dead people voting. Well, who did they vote for Senate? Who did they vote for Congress? Or do you not care about those elections? Like I stated before, if you want to have a free and fair election that's fraudulent free, you should be complaining as president about all fraud, not just the election that affected you. If dead people voted, they didn't just check off president, they checked off all that other stuff. Why isn't he not complaining about that? Why isn't he not bringing up that, some of my Republican senators in Congress that won that year won by fraud? Not mentioning anything about that. They would be on the same ballot as all these dead immigrants and all that stuff too. It's not coming up. Now, in the comments, I can't pronounce the name. Weenie Beanie says, and he has. Show me some evidence of Trump complaining about a Republican senator or Republican congressperson that won by fraud. I want to hear it. Give me one congressperson or one Republican senator that Trump is saying you actually won that position fraudulently and you should not be there. I would love to hear that. Let me know. Looking in the comments, Pelosi not linked to Dominion. Yeah, I don't think she's linked to it either. I don't know where that came from, but we'll keep it moving. Going back to the box or comment section, we talk to Appreciate you folks that are holding on. Tap the screen. Get your boy up to 60,000 likes. Talking about Trump's inner circle. 2 guilty pleas in 2 days. Andy, is it possible that members of Trump's inner circle deliberately tried to steal the 2020 election, at least in the state of Georgia?
It's possible they stole it all over the country. Yes, yes, yes. The answer is yes. And the gentleman that was just up here from Alabama, I implore him to go read the new 2022 Constitution Alabama wrote, because he may not like the idea that he's not allowed to sue the state anymore, or that K.I.V. took away lots of our rights in this state. So even if it doesn't affect him, it's going to affect somebody in your family, Clinton. So just prepare yourself.
Yeah, there's some issues going on. I might have to end up having an actual stream on that because Sarah Huckabee Sanders of Trump fame, she's also facing some problems in her state that may end up leading to her being arrested. But yeah, Alabama, you often bring up Alabama is an interesting place. We were talking about abortion yesterday, women's rights in your state. What is it with Alabama, by the way? What makes them so unique?
I don't know, because we sent Doug Jones to when Trump was actually in office. We sent him a Democrat. So
Yeah,
make
but
that make sense.
wasn't with his scandals of enjoying the likes of children, was Trump still backing him?
Roy Moore? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, he was.
even with the scandals.
Hmm.
Ah, I can
And the
barely
man was
remember.
going, my victims, I would never. The girl that accused him was actually older than his wife. So, I mean,
Wow. So, in regards to, I see in the comments somebody said you really need a larger platform. Edward Naylor, give me a suggestion. I enjoy it. I enjoy speaking to you folks. But what I wanted to ask is if you believe with Sidney Powell and Kenneth Chesborough both taking guilty pleas in the last 48 hours, do you think that they were doing it on behalf of Trump or they were just doing it for their own personal gain? Like my last
I think the
caller
Freedom
stated,
Caucus itself is a problem.
explain.
Why do you think Jim Jordan is up there so desperately trying to get that speakership? I mean, let's be honest. He talked to Trump 10 minutes on the phone that morning. I mean, Jim Jordan's weaponization of government is literally the weaponization of government.
Yeah. Somebody in the comments is saying he dropped out. Didn't he drop out before though?
Yeah, they said that yesterday, and they still had a vote on him today. So until
Right,
they put somebody
right.
up,
I
I
heard
don't
this.
believe that.
Yeah, yeah. I heard the same thing before it. I mean, they don't have what one or two. They had one more vote for him today that he's already lost. They're talking about maybe another one. But yeah, I was told that a day or two ago too that he had dropped out. No, he's still trying to get the job. He ain't dropped out.
There, there
Now
was a story this morning that a representative's wife said that somebody had sent her some text messages that were threatening her because her husband didn't vote for Jordan.
some people don't like you. Some people
Yeah,
don't
but
like you doing things the wrong way. You got
why
a good
is
old
it the
voice.
right has moved to that mode of handling everything? So it's violence or nothing. Is that their new motto? Because it doesn't
I
look good
gotta
for the
push
party
back though.
of family values.
I gotta push back though, because yeah, the right does seem to sometimes get violent if they don't get their way. But Brett Kavanaugh can tell you about the left showing up to his house as well.
Well, what about the guy that was it in Arizona that had 4 different guys try to take out the people that beat him in the election? I mean, and he got caught with it is so more
Damn.
widespread on one side than the other. So that Nancy Pelosi's husband probably has a few things to say about it.
Yeah. Well,
I mean,
right now in the Trump environment, yeah,
and the
there is
Kavanaugh guy
more.
turned himself in.
Who?
The Kavanaugh guy, he called and turned himself in.
No, no, no. I'm talking about Brett Kavanaugh, the Supreme Court judge.
Yeah,
All
the
the
guy that was
liberals.
going to his house called and turned himself in.
Yeah, but he had a whole block full of people, Andy. The whole block full of people out in front of his house.
Oh, I'm talking about the guy that went, the lone guy by himself
Okay.
that went. And
All right. Well, right now, and I see somebody in the comments talking about Michigan Governor Whitmer. Right now, in the Trump environment, most of the political violence is coming from the right. I do agree with that. There's been Black Lives Matter rallies and things like that, but even that stuff now is a few years old. There, under the Biden administration, there has not been a lot of Black Lives Matter rallies and riots at all. It's mostly on the right that you're getting the political violence, but
Well, during the
is
last,
Trump responsible?
well, I mean, look at the bus that was going down the Texas road that almost got run off the road.
Hmm.
That's, look, if Democrats were so smart that they could steal the election and not leave our fingerprints all over it, like they claim, we would have stolen much more of the down ballot. There is no way that we are smart enough to steal the election and not smart enough to take more of the Senate and the House.
Well, as opposed to making the Democrats look morally correct, I usually ask it from the other side, which is if the Democrats did steal the election, why are the Republicans so silent about it? Because if the Democrats are stealing the election, that means the Republican Senate and Congress, they're losing out. They should be the first to say they're stealing the election from us. And they're not saying it. You don't, in fact, there are more Republican governors like Governor Kemp in Georgia saying that Trump is telling a lie about it. There should be Republicans all over the place in
Well,
Washington saying that the election was
Georgia is
stolen.
Republican on Republican anyway. I don't know why they're trying to drag Democrats into it. That ain't even our party. That's their party.
Well, they're pointing out that most of the anti-Jim, what is Jones votes, they're pointing out that most of the votes against the guy is coming from Democrats. But you're right.
I'm talking
You
about
wouldn't
Kemp.
expect Democrats to vote for the guy.
Well, I mean, Democrats didn't leave their speaker with one person being able to pull them off the caucus, which that's all Matt Gaetz. And they stand behind their speaker. Hakeem Jeffries has the full support of the Democratic Party. Now, if 5 Republicans want to step on over and give him the gavel, that'd be great.
Well, you don't think the right would ever support it. I mean,
I
Hakeem
do. I
is.
think that in some of these swing states, some of these Republicans who are getting hammered about why there's no legislation just might. Because it's
What is
not
it?
like the
200
Republicans have
and
tried to legislate this entire time.
There's like 200 and something now. The Democrats have the minority in Congress. But how many Republicans will we need? Because all of the
I think
Democrats
it's
are going to vote for
I think it's
Hakeem.
either 5 or 8. It's one of those two numbers. It's 5 or 8. That's all we need.
That's that's all you got to get is eight. Wow.
I think so. I
I
think it's
don't
actually
think
only 5.
I don't think you'd ever do it. I don't think
Behind
you know.
the whole, and see, if the Republicans go on vacation this weekend and leave the Democrats up there by themselves to work again, and we don't have a speaker with all this going on, there will be some Republicans feel the pressure in purple districts that will tell
You're
them,
not going
you
to
know,
you're not going to have an R behind your name, Andy, and support Hakeem. You get shot. You're not going to support.
yeah,
You
you
go out
wouldn't have
like
thought that you'd
Gabby.
have
What was Gabby
a D
Gifford?
behind your name in Alabama would send you instead of a Republican, but we did.
I don't know. You?
Think about
I
it.
don't.
Alabama sent Jim Jones instead. If it's going to be Jim Jordan, and we do mean Jim, as in his past profession, there's a lot of people that can't get past that. Even Republicans.
Wow, that would be crazy. Let me just ask you before I move it on. Do you think the current environment in Congress, where the Republicans are fighting literally amongst each other, do you think Trump is responsible for any of that?
Um, I think more Steve Bannon and Roger Stone, and Trump is
Well,
the
yeah, that's
entertainment out
pretty
in
much
front to
Trump.
keep everybody busy watching him while they do whatever they want to, and nobody watches them.
Yeah.
Is
Well,
what I think is going on.
Steve Bannon and Roger Stone are pretty much Trump. I mean, that
Because
they're
why
pretty
haven't
much
they been
yeah.
indicted? Why haven't them and Michael Flynn got an indictment yet? That's what I
Let's
want to know.
let's hear what Sidney Powell and some of these others that are flipping have to say because they're going to point fingers. There's no way especially Sidney Powell. She got 6 years probation. There's no way she would have got a sweetheart deal like that unless she don't told them something behind the scenes that they want to hear. She really is putting out an album in the
And I've
background.
been
She's
really thinking
singing.
about this. You think that Steve Bannon actually let the Mother Jones tape out by accident before the election for Trump, where he said Trump was going to come out and steal the election before it
No,
happened.
I
I mean,
believe.
Steve
Yeah, you
Bannon's
talking
not
about.
that sloppy.
No, somebody. Well, let's just be clear. There has always been people in Trump's inner circle that have snitched and doing things. Somebody in his inner circle is doing that stuff. I mean,
And
Trump
we
treats
only,
people pretty crappy.
and we only have video of Roger Stone cussing out Donald Trump and Roger Stone saying it's okay, we're not going to have another election. You can start taking out the. It's just very odd to me that those are the only three pieces they've captured.
Well, give it time. I would not be surprised if there is more. People are probably saving nest eggs because there's a lot of folks that are, at risk of getting hung. So I'm sure people are saving, something to put forward that they can use to save themselves. Everybody know Trump is the big fish. So there are people out there like, well, shit, I may have to give them what they want to save my ass.
Well, that's why Jim Jordan wants to get rid of the FBI. It's why he's having the weaponization of government trials. Jim is definitely trying to save his behind from the January 6th hearings. He will do
Mm,
anything possible to get rid of that.
damn.
And
Talk about ultimately, based on what you're saying and based on what the way things are looking, Trump may ultimately drain the swamp after all. I got to move
yep,
it on, though, Andy.
see ya.
Appreciate you coming in. All right. Looking in the comments section, Jim Jordan, Hannity, what does that say? Jim Jordan, Hannity, Trump, MAGA called to death threaten who didn't vote for Jim Jordan. Hannity? I don't know. What does Hannity have? Sean Hannity have to do with that? Jim Jordan is the best they got with the laughing emojis. Listen, Jim Jordan is getting the agenda accomplished. That's when you say, is he the best they got? There's a lot. I believe personally, a large portion of the MAGA base, for instance, want America to go further right than what the typical Republican would ask for. And Jim Jordan is willing to support the further right, the far right agenda. Fuck your feelings type deal. Get on the Trump train and get ran over type stuff. Not reach across the aisle and what we're doing here, having civilized dialogue, both sides say, no, fuck that. Our way or the highway. I do believe Jim Jordan is more of that type of person. Just like there are individuals on the left that can be like that. And I do believe that's why some folks are pushing for Jim Jordan as opposed to a McCarthy who was willing to, work with both sides. That ain't cool in this environment. In this tribalistic environment, being willing to work with the other side is not as cool as it used to be. Looking in the comments, Jim Jordan is out, which is great. GOP can do better. But do they want to do better? That's the problem. One of the things I say on the program all the time, for folks who favor Trump, favor the economy, favor Trump's policies, and there's a lot of reasons to do that. Country wasn't run that bad under Trump. I'm not here to say otherwise. I do believe if it wasn't for his mouth in COVID, Trump probably deserved a second term. But in regards to the other 7 or 8 candidates running against Trump on the Republican side in the primary, I've said this before. Almost all of them would give you 70 to 80% or even greater of all of the policies you favor for Trump. Vivek would build a wall. Nikki Haley is going to secure the border. All of them would do that. So what is the draw about President Trump? Because you're going to get the same policies out of all of these other people. That's because you say that, the GOP could do better than Jim Jordan. I believe to some degree you could probably be more successful if you investigated or considered putting one of those other politicians up there than Trump. Nikki Haley continues to beat Biden in the polls, whereas Biden is very competitive with Trump. If the courts don't stop Trump outright, I think in Colorado, the 14th Amendment case is actually surviving, where they're going to remove him completely off the ballot in Colorado. That could happen, in addition to the potential he could be found guilty for some of this stuff. The other candidates don't have those scandals, and you would still get most of the same policies out of them. And you could get 8 years instead of 4. Why are they not attractive at all, as opposed to Trump? You get rid of the scandals, you get 8 years instead of 4. You would unify the whole party again, because the party's not going to be unified under Trump. You guys already admitted you don't really like most of the Republican politicians in Washington. You believe they're all corrupt. If Nikki Haley or one of these other candidates was to get the nomination, the Republican Party would come back together. It's not going to ever do that under Trump. That's never going to happen. Too many Koch brothers, or what's left of the Koch brothers, or the Romneys, or the Bushes. Too many well-known established Republicans don't like Trump. You could get rid of all of that division by going with one of those other people and still get most of Trump's policies. And 8 years in office. I don't get why those other people are so unattractive. I don't understand it. Looking in the comments, SG says Trump burned every bridge. Damn. There is a lot of roadway behind Trump that is on fire. I don't know about every bridge. He burned a lot of them. And the country will go back 120 years. I don't think Nikki Haley would turn the country back 120 years. I know there's no love for Chris Christie among Republicans. He certainly wouldn't set the country back 120 years. Tim Scott, I don't favor him, but I don't think he'd set the country back 120 years. Some of them folks are not running on, rolling back all of these social policies like that. Mike Pence may be a different story. Draining the DC swamp, giving the power back to the states, federal government regulate, not dictate. There's some good in that and some things I have issues with. As an African American, I'm just going to come out and flat out say I'm a bit hesitant on states' rights. I understand we don't like big government, and big government can be corrupt in a lot of areas. I understand that. But as an African American, states' rights don't really have any good track record with people like me. So I'm real hesitant when people start talking about states' rights. Because generally, when you hear folks promoting states' rights, it's generally the states asking for the right to take a freedom away from somebody. Only in regards to the Second Amendment do I see people gaining freedoms under states' rights. Usually, the states, I don't want LGBT to do this or do that. I don't want affirmative action. I don't want a woman to be able to do this or do that. That's usually what you hear with states' rights. It's the fight to take the rights away from groups of people. Historically, I've been on the wrong side of those groups. So it's hard for me to look at states' rights and go, yay, 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 because it would mean you really need to ignore the history of it. So, I understand it's not popular with some, but I'm not a huge fan of states' rights. I'm hesitant because states' rights has acted in such a horrendous condition or horrendous manner for people like me. Documented history, not making it up, not an opinion. You all know. If certain states had never been interfered with by the federal government, civil rights, I may still be fighting for those. So, not a big fan of it. Anyhow, folks, you know what this is. I do appreciate the 61,000 likes. Tessero pled guilty. Fanny 3, Trump insurrection 0. Do appreciate you folks tuning in. As always, you could be anywhere you want to be. It's always a pleasure having you here. Thank you for your generosity today as well. It's a lunch break live. If you enjoy civilized dialogue, both sides of the aisle, you need to follow this program. Monday through Friday, this is where we're at. Everybody gets to speak. The host is not going to be interfering with your opinion. You get to say what you want to say here. It's your boy Tim, the handsome liberal. I got to go.